What are chemtrails?
Chemical trails, Daddy, and they're very bad.
I look up to the sky. Can you tell me why? Can you tell me why?
Well, this is Dane Wigington with GeoEngineering Watch Radio for March 14th, 2015. A lot going on this week. As always, radical fluctuations continue in temperatures. A lot of records set, high temperature records, by the way, this time. Many of the middle parts of the country of Southern California setting records in the last couple of days, temperatures in the 90s. In LA, long temperatures in the 80s in places around the Dakotas. Lots of high temperature records set, but Weather Channel doesn't cover that much. In fact, if there's an engineered snow event going on, Weather Channel will take the whole weekend and cover that. Without that kind of event, if there's 10 times as much area under record warmth, they don't cover it. The whole weekend ends up being reality shows. That's what they fill the space with when they don't want to cover the news. So we'll get to some good conversation with Russ and calls here shortly. Just want to give an update. Thanks to Russ, we have a show up every week. Without Russ, that wouldn't happen. So Russ is an exceptionally valued friend and exceptionally important person in this fight. So we'll get Russ on the line here in a moment. We have, again, cold in a few places, the same places, the far northeast of the country, because they're trying desperately to reach the all-time snow record for Boston. That's the big push, as if that's indicative of the whole world, which it's not. It's becoming increasingly difficult to hide the fact that we appear to be in a runaway warming event right now on planet Earth. A runaway greenhouse event, and climate engineering is helping to fuel the fire. That's what's important to remember with that. If and when they try to sell us climate engineering as a mitigation for the cataclysm that's unfolding on our planet right now, one that's still a lot to face, and I hope they look at all the data and face the fact that this is unfolding right now, but it's important that we understand the scenario enough that people realize climate engineering, for 65 years, we can say for certain, it has helped this happen. It will never be mitigation. I spent a lot of the day yesterday, I was in Chico, there's some great activists that came for an event that involved Guy McPherson, Professor Guy McPherson from UC Arizona. Very grateful to Wanda Allen, Corey Gunnels, came all the way from Arizona, wanted from back east. Rebel Siren.
It's okay, baby.
Francis
I'll
Mangels.
fix it.
Got some background noise, Russ. I'm not sure what's going on. We had Francis Mangels, a Forest Service biologist. We had former Fish and Game biologist Alan Buckman. We had a private roundtable meeting. A couple other people there who I'm not sure they want me to mention their name. They're very important people in this fight, but not necessarily want to be out in the open yet. But we had a private roundtable with Guy McPherson. It was very interesting. For those who don't know who Guy is, you should look it up. Guy's one of the most outspoken people on the state of the climate, and I salute him for that. But he's putting out a half-truth. I'll put out a lot more data on this soon. We still got some background noise. I'm not sure what's going on with that. But at this roundtable, it was astounding. Guy McPherson's behavior was alarming to me. That for someone who
Hi. I finally got through. Yeah, this is Becca.
Russ, I'm not
Hi.
sure. Russ, can you hear me? We've got some serious other people on the line here.
Yep, I'm sorry.
The audio issues.
Yeah, we're clear. Go
Can you
ahead.
hear me, Russ?
Yep, go ahead. You're good.
Okay. All right. Anyway, Guy's behavior, as I said, was alarming to me, and for someone who says they're trying to share the truth for the benefit of the common good, he didn't want any truth in regard to climate engineering. Didn't want any truth. Didn't want to hear any data. Flatly refused to listen to even credentialed experts, biologists who I brought with me. had no interest in looking at data. In fact, by the end of this roundtable, he just got up and walked out of the room and didn't return, and then insisted that we give our camera chip to them so that we couldn't show that film of this discussion. That doesn't sound like somebody who's trying to get at the truth, does it? And this is again, it's alarming to me when this is representative of the climate science community, who obviously does not want to talk about climate engineering. But in the meeting last night, after this roundtable occurred, in which I hope to get some of that film footage back, we had to give it up because we did not have a right without their permission to show it. But we did show at the presentation last night because I paid for the auditorium where the presentation was, specifically so I couldn't be kicked out. And then to find out that people who come such a tremendous distance, like Corey Gunnels and Wanda Allen, then have to sit and watch a film of Guy McPherson because he apparently didn't feel that he should give a live presentation. In spite of people coming so far, what's the point of being there? I understand if he wasn't there or couldn't attend and people have to show a film of what he presents, and that's fine. But when you're there and people think you're going to do a live presentation, you just show a film, that doesn't seem equitable to me. And worse, when the Q&A, which is what everybody was waiting for, question and answer, they announce once you're at the event that they're not going to let anyone ask a question. You just have to write your question on a card and submit it to a moderator who then decides whether it will be asked or not. I mean, you basically neuter the whole event at that point. So for someone who claims to be trying to share the truth, I saw a lot of things that didn't indicate that to me last night. So in spite of the fact that no one was supposed to ask a question at the end of the event, I did, and I felt I had a right to. I stated that because I paid for this auditorium, I had a right to ask Mr. McPherson a question. My question to him was this. He spent the first part of his Q&A just discussing the fact that he felt there was absolutely no evidence of climate engineering.
Oh, shit.
Although, Russ, I got a lot of noise coming through, if you can hear it. That he felt there was no evidence to collaborate that climate engineering was going on. So my question to Guy was, would he tell us on the record definitively that he knows it's not going on? He can't say that. I know he can't say that. I knew he wouldn't say it on the record, and he didn't. He admitted no. In a private meeting he and I had prior to this conference, he said, Dane, if you choose to believe in the spaghetti monster, it doesn't mean that I'm going to believe in it. And my response was astonishment that with governments around the globe discussing climate engineering, the entire climate science community discussing climate engineering obviously going on in the skies above our heads, that he would use such a derogatory term and try to marginalize something that's clearly going on. And then when I stated, we have film footage of these aircraft at altitude spraying, Guy, that's the end of the argument. It's going on. And Guy's response to me was, and I'm quoting exactly, he said, no, you don't, as if we don't have film. I mean, it was a denial to a point that's, again, alarming. Very, very alarming. We do have it. So the event went on, and then after the question I posed to Guy where he admitted he couldn't say that it wasn't going on, his own staff, to her credit, one of his own staff got up at the end of the event, and I'll put this on film soon, we have the film footage of this happening, and said, yes, this is going on. And she went on for several minutes about the fact that she knew that this was going on, clearly on. She'd done a lot of her own research, and I don't know where Guy's at right now, but his denial just got blown out of the water last night. So it's a step forward. Thanks to Corey and Wanda who took time to come so far to attend this event. And again, we'll post video footage of it soon once it gets edited. But that's kind of half we have going on from the climate science. Half nice. So I hope Guy McPherson, if he truly believes that he's doing something for the common good, I hope that he decides to tell a whole truth and not a half truth.
Oh.
So, Russ, I still got stuff going on. Can you hear that, Russ? Russ?
Yep, I got it.
Okay, can we deal with that, because it's hard to continue on in this end.
Yep, go ahead. Yep.
Anyway, right now the whole scenario that we face right now is unraveling, and that will become ever more visible soon. We have countries around the globe that are literally descending into chaos right now, today. Media is not bringing us all this results. It boils down to resource wars. That's what it comes down to. All these conflicts that we see happening around the globe. Ultimately, that's what the underlying factor. We have, again, as I discussed before, we have the BDI, that's Baltic Dry Index, which is the greatest indicator of global shipping. It's absolutely in the basement, which means goods aren't shipping around the globe. The whole notion of expanding economy is absolute nonsense. It's a total fallacy. We have in China, and for those that don't know about this, you should look it up and really examine the photographs yourself. There's massive ghost cities that were constructed in order to keep China's GDP going. No one lives there. No one. We have Egypt now announcing that they're going to build a brand city on the coast, a massive megalopolis that would hold 7 million people. It's not going to happen. I mean, we right now, we live in a civilization of total delusion. Russ, I'm having weird things. I hope you can still hear me. I'm having the weird kind of the noises on the phone that seems like when it's being picked up and listened in. Hopefully you can hear me.
Oh, yeah, your audio is coming through fine here, Dane.
Okay, thanks, Russ. So, again, the snake eating its own tail. Absolutely a snake eating its own tail. We have filthy skies everywhere. We have an environment that's completely toxic. In fact, the only known uncontaminated lake on the planet is Lake Vostok, ice in Antarctica. So, again, we face quite a cataclysm. But back to the scientists whose obligation for the public good has been completely ignored across the board. The science community that society relies on to disclose what the public needs to know, and we have a public that doesn't want to know, I understand that, but when they have a science community that's helping them not to know, then we have people who have completely ignored their moral responsibility to society. And again, back to the event I attended yesterday, it was incredibly shocking. The whole event was that Guy McPherson's message is that we're all dead, and his workshop after the meeting last night, because the climate is so bad and nothing can stop it, and so his workshop is about trying to accept the fact that you're going to die, and that's very twisted to me. We all know we're going to die. From the moment we're born, we know we're going to die, but does that stop you from living in the meantime? And in regard to the climate, if there's a massive part of the equation that he's not disclosing that we could still yet change, that could radically alter our situation, it doesn't take our problems away. We face a planet that's been horrifically damaged, permanently damaged. It'll never be the same in any time frame that matters. But if there's a massive part of the equation that we could yet expose and stop, and that's at the moment an even greater threat than the climate implosion itself. In fact, not only fueling that implosion, but climate engineering is making toxic every single breath we take. Is that not a more immediate threat than anything else? And yet it's patently denied by McPherson and others. But soon they can't hide this. And that was my final personal statement to Guy, was this, before his meeting. Climate engineering will be impossible to hide for much longer. Those that have helped to hide it and denied it will have a lot of explaining to do to a population that will not be happy with that kind of denial. I hope he's thinking about that. I truly do. I'll publish more detailed data about this in the coming days, but the bottom line is it's that type of message being put out from that kind of people that have helped put us in this kind of situation. And I do salute Guy's openness and honesty about the climate, and his data has been more accurate, or the data he relies on, more accurate than anything else. The climate is that bad. But again, if there's a massive part of the puzzle that's causing it or propelling it further in a negative direction, it's not being talked about, then his presentation is not honest. That's the facts. So, Russ, you said you got a little bit of clean air where you're at. Better than Maine, because Maine's being pounded again and again and again with engineered snowstorms and God knows how much chemical ice nucleation, so it's a little better off in Philly where you're at?
Yeah, I'm visiting Philly for a couple days here, and I can tell you on the drive down here, Maine, the Bangor area of Maine and about an hour south of that whole area is absolutely the worst. In Philadelphia, they still have considerable spraying. In fact, I did some filming yesterday, and we showed dozens of trails in the sky. We had times throughout the day where the air was very bad for people who are sensitive like me. But overall, it is significantly less than the Bangor area in Maine. And that stands true on this particular trip. That stands true between here and Maine. Now, a lot of times New York City and Boston are almost as bad as Maine. That's usually the case. But this particular drive down, it wasn't as bad as Maine. So, but Philly, if people look up in the sky, if you're in the Philadelphia area and you look up and you see all these trails, there are massive things. In fact, yesterday we watched them completely turn a beautiful, clear, sunny day into overcast in just a period of a few hours. I was outside and went to Lancaster. Lancaster is famous for its Amish community. Dane, you may have heard of it. Big Amish community up there in Lancaster. And I spent a good part of the day up there, and I watched them just in a period of about 2 to 3 hours just completely make the whole sky overcast. It was just unbelievable.
Well, they're covering a lot of ground with the spraying. It's getting worse by the day, and the temperatures are rising faster by the day. And again, this is where I hope everybody takes the time to do actual research. And just like the Arctic ice situation, that so many were convinced, and they're still convinced by articles that are still being put out right now, that the ice is expanding. It's complete nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And the climate engineering is making that situation worse, not better. And I hope people look at actual data. In fact, Russ, I'm going to ship you in a minute here. Hopefully you can post this for the chat room. I'll ship you the latest biomass ice extent chart. Could not be more clear. We're in uncharted territory. And the mass itself, not just the extent. In fact, this is what they consider now to be ice pack. Any section of ocean that has 15% of ice coverage. Does that really count as ice pack? 85% ocean and 15% ice? Well, they're still counting that as ice pack. And even then, we're descending in record territory at a descent rate that, in fact, if it continues at this rate, I'm not saying it will. I can't know. I mean, they've been able to radically chemically nucleate just like they did with the Great Lakes, and which created the big ice boulders there, but the chemical nucleation that causes a freezing over that's immensely powerful, but very toxic. But if, depending on what they do in the Arctic, are able to pull off, perhaps they'll curve this off a little bit. But right now, in the current trajectory, we're looking at a probable ice-free Arctic in the very near future. And again, right now, today, we are at record low Arctic ice. So. And what do the climate engineers do as things get worse? They do what insane entities do. They do more of what helped to bring us to this place to begin with. So the spraying seems to be increasing radically all over the globe. Let's try to get some conversation going, and I hope people maybe have some questions about what the climate science community is putting out and what people like Guy McPherson are putting out. Happy to answer those questions. And Russ, can you give the phone number, and we'll try to get some dialogue going?
Yeah, absolutely. For those who want to call in, the call-in number is 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. We do have some people in the queue already. Caller with your number that ends in 25. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, this is Becca. I'm in near Austin, Texas.
Hi,
Thanks
Becca.
for taking my call. Hi guys. Finally got through. I've been trying since the beginning, but never could. So thank you. I want to thank you first of all you guys for all that you do. Really,
It's all of us working
You
together.
got a hard job. It's a hard job. Yeah, I wanted to call in because I recently had some success getting through to people after a long and frustrating, depressing period of, trying all kinds of things and not being able to. And the way I did it was I sort of played dumb, and we had some obvious spraying going on that day. And I mentioned the last month's Newsweek and the articles about geoengineering, and after I said, does anybody know what those lines are up there? Have you seen that? There's long lines, and I sort of played dumb, and I've done that in several classes. I'm in college, and we do a lot of current events and like a government class of all places, and it worked really well, like several times, a lot better than handing out flyers and cards and talking to people. So I'm not a scientist, and I tend to get emotional, so I was having failure after failure, but I had several breakthroughs, like 3 last week. So anyway, just wanted to pass that on.
Well, every time you have that happen, when a lot of people take the position that our battle is impossible to win, so why are we trying?
I hear that. Yeah, my family is like that.
Well, when you share what you just shared, you just won. I mean, that by itself, if you had any part, and obviously you did, of expanding someone's level of awareness, their field of vision, and if you help them wake up, then the effort was worthwhile. Period. I mean, that has to matter. If this whole thing called life is about something, it has to be about that. So, again, it does matter.
Does.
Yeah.
I don't understand people doing anything else or worrying about anything else right now. And I also wanted to ask if you had any advice on my son. I'm trying to get through to my son. He's a smart boy, but and people in my family there, they won't listen, and they're very much saying they can't. Their point is that we can't do anything about it anyway. So, why even worry about it? So, and I really wanted to ask if there's any particular show or movie or short, something online or something I can show them on YouTube. What would you suggest to be the best thing to get through to people that you really care about, that you need, like your family, people that need to be on board here?
Just for an initial wake up?
Yes, for the very first one. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you might try the film Look Up, or
okay.
One of Michael's films, Why in the World Are They Spraying?
I've watched those myself. Yeah, I want to make sure that I have scientific people in my family. I want to make sure that I get them really well with a good science, like some of your stuff. They're just they won't even go on your site and read articles because they don't want to know too. People have a hard time. I did too. It took me a year of being depressed to, be able to get mobilized on this. But
if they're science oriented, I mean, the presentations, the live presentations are where more science is presented. I mean, the other films are more intro.
So which presentations? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Presentations like those on the homepage of GeoEngineering Watch. Some of those live presentations, weather warfare, or climate engineering, weather warfare, and the collapse of civilization.
Okay,
some of those.
That's the one I was leaning towards. Right.
Okay. Those are
cool.
More science-based, and anyway.
And for not scientific people, what do you suggest for just regular lay people?
Other films I mentioned. Some of Michael's.
Yeah. Okay. Like Look Up,
or if you're familiar with the Look Up film, that's a good intro film too, because they recognize the narrator in that one would be William Baldwin. So any of those films would be fine. And,
again, that one. Okay. Gotcha.
The events on the ground are unfolding so rapidly that it's going to be hard to ignore for long. And recent sea level rise stats from Union of Concerned Scientists, sea level rise is not uniform globally as many people think. There's a lot of variables, but LA's right now only in the 2 to 3 to 4 inch range, but Texas is in the last 40 years. Texas is over a foot. East Coast is at 9 inches. These are huge rises, and most of it's occurred in the last decade.
Right.
So,
we've been in a drought prior to that. Yeah, and I don't see how people can't see how fake.
Drought doesn't affect sea level.
It does. I don't understand how people can't see the skies are different than they were when we were younger. The skies it looks fake up there, and I don't understand how no one sees it. It just blows my mind.
Well, again, how do I stand toe to toe with a globally recognized climate scientist yesterday who calls this believing in the flying spaghetti monster? I mean, this is
right. Exactly. I get that a lot. Oh, there goes the conspiracy theory girl. Yeah.
Well, but that kind of denial is just a psychological defense mechanism, and
it is
very prevalent in academia, where they want to stay in their own little bubble. And I think Guy McPherson's bubble got popped by his own staff yesterday to a large degree, who wanted to finally admit on the record that geoengineering is going on. So we just keep going, keep chipping away, keep planting seeds. I
need to see that, because Guy's bumming me out, and I can't stand listening to him anymore, because I've got to see that. Where was that? Where can I see that? Is it anywhere online?
We haven't posted it yet. I will.
Okay.
But I mean, again, I have huge disagreement with Guy's message of let's just all sit down and prepare to die. I don't
Right.
accept that. If you're, again, if you're, an example I used last night at the presentation, if your child falls into a raging river and you have a very
Right.
small chance of saving that child, are you not going to jump in just the same? And in fact, we do have
Yeah, or
something.
blow them a kiss and wave bye-bye. Right, exactly.
We do have something we can do. Not soon enough. Waiting.
Oh, I lost you guys.
Russ, any input?
Yeah, I was going to say, Becca, this kind of denial, I see this all the time, and I don't think that it's a lack of information at all. I think that the real problem is that people don't want to deal with it. And the two big excuses always,
so.
people use a lot of different excuses, but it always boils down to two different things that I find. They say you can't do anything, or they say you can't know anything. They always say there's nothing
you can know.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can know now. Yeah.
Right. People say you can't really do anything, so why should we bother? Or they say you can't really know if it's going on, so we really don't know. And the thing is, we have so much evidence that it is going on. So the real problem, one suggestion I might have is make it personal.
Right. That's what I'm trying with my brother-in-law. You just like give them your children, lay down and die, and say, "Here I am." It's frustrating. And he's like, "Well, there's nothing we can do. Why waste my time? I'm just going to drink beer."
One thing that you can actually do, I think, Becca, is actually teach them how aluminum affects their health, or how barium affects their.
I have.
Tell them.
I tried that tactic too, starting with the fluoride issue, and I kind of tried to move into our issue because he's just. My brother-in-law, it's pathological sometimes, Russ. I think it's more than just they're afraid. They're pathologically, I don't know, I notice people act differently lately. Around here, I don't know what's going on. It's scary because I think.
Yeah, I think telling them, helping them to understand how this affects their health is one part of it. But the bottom line is that first of all, don't get discouraged if they act like they're not listening, because oftentimes the people who act the most like they're not listening are the ones who are most impacted. The other thing I would say is, once you presented them and you truly are not getting through, if you're truly not getting through, then just move on. Go to the general public, because what will happen with your family is, once the general public begins accepting this and there's a lot of momentum, then your family will jump on the bandwagon. They'll start saying, "Oh yeah, we knew it all along." That's what's going to happen to one degree.
I hope so. That's fantasize about. That's what I hope about. And I also asked Dane about, do you guys think that they're part of the government, or AMEG, like they're part of the thing to try to get the government to say, now we have to spray because AMEG says that, blah, blah, blah. Or, do you think they're compromised, the whole group, or what's up with them?
Gosh, I had some serious audio breakout. I apologize, Becca.
That's okay. I was asking about AMEG, the methane emergency people.
Yeah, what about?
Well, I was wondering if you feel like they're like the government's whatever mouthpiece to get them to start saying they have to do it to save the ice, whatever. I thought that might be, or do you think they're compromised in some way?
Well, I think that's a possibility, because.
Or is it just the gagging of the real issue?
Well, again, when they are in total denial of the fact that climate engineering has gone on for 65 years, clearly making the situation far worse, not better. So whatever is pulling their strings, they're not being honest. And even though a lot of their data from the ground is accurate and should be looked at, they are giving a half-truth, just like Guy McPherson is. So anyway, we'll have to all keep sorting the baby from the bathwater, if you will.
Right. I'm going to talk to the department. Cultural department, spring breaking, and the meteorology departments, and see if I can hear. But thank you guys so much for what you do.
Thank you, Becca.
Thank you, Becca. Okay. I would also add to that, Dane. I mean, do you think? I think it's probably more than likely that before the powers that be would employ a system like this that is so visible and so widespread, that they would control as much of the sources of information as possible. What do you think?
Right.
I do think so. And when you have AMEG coming out with their the warning they put out the day after the several dozen mainstream media articles in geoengineering in mid-February, and it's hard to think that's a coincidence. So I think there's coordination going on, yes. But thanks for all you're doing, Becca. We're going to try to get out a couple more calls, but thank you for everything you're doing.
Thanks, guys. You too. Bye, guys.
Becca, thank you so much for calling. Caller with your number that ends in 68. How are you today?
Hi, guys. I'm doing good.
Who are we speaking with?
This is Phoenix Henson.
Phoenix? Hi, Phoenix. What's on your mind?
Well, I do a lot of posting on Russ's page and Chemtrails Global Skywatch.
I do a lot of time-lapse videos in New Mexico. And I apologize, I'm a little nervous. The first time I've got you guys on the radio.
Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. We're all part of the same team. Keep going.
Well, you were talking about reports from the scientific community. I have been researching a whole bunch because I just now discovered climate modification in December. I walked outside my house and I watched an air assault happen over us. I watched it sink down to the earth and turn our sun pink. And I started just taking a bunch of photos, and I had no idea what I was witnessing. I just thought it looked very ominous and sinister. And I'd never even heard of climate modification prior to that. I mean, just a little bit here and there. So I started researching through the article I found on the Agriculture Defense Coalition of New Mexico. And they released a report in, I believe it was 2012, saying that around March 2014, they were going to start experimenting over the people of New Mexico. Well, I believe they conducted one of those experiments on December the 8th, which is when I discovered it, and people were telling me all these things, so I started researching what you talk about, and I discovered geoengineering. Now, I wanted to ask you...
Whatever particular experiments you saw, I mean, it's certainly been going on over New Mexico and just about everywhere else for about 65 years. So there may be, a lot of what you see is smoke and mirrors that indicate, again, that they try to paint things off as proposals or so forth. But we have more than enough data to confirm that these programs have been going on for 6.5 decades at a large scale. So, again, I'm glad you've gotten onto this issue and certainly are researching it now. I hope you share it with others. Was there any other specific question that we can answer
yes.
for you?
I know there's 3 different types of experiments that they're doing over us. This one looked like aluminum. It was very like a tin, like a garbage can type of an appearance. Then we have one that happens that is a milky white haze. They come and they spray this milky white stuff, and it just creates all these cirrus clouds and traps everything. And so my question to you is, they do these things without our knowledge and without public awareness. Is there any way we can force them to disclose these experiments? They have an Aurora project, geoengineering project report that they released that talks about everything, and I can't get it to post on Russ's page for some reason.
Maybe Russ, someone can help you with that. But the bottom line is this.
Personally, I'll be happy to help you with that. Yep.
Thanks, Russ.
Uh-huh.
Bottom line is this: is they're not going to willingly disclose anything. I don't believe, not until the population wakes up, takes to the streets, and demands disclosure. We're in a fight for life. It's that simple. The material is accumulating in our bodies rapidly, very, very rapidly. We're seeing people with barium and aluminum levels that are 10, 15 times over the top of the chart. I mean, your body can only take so much, and we're nearing that point now for all of us. So right now, what activists can do, the most important thing is to continue effectively planting seeds with those around us. And as Russ said earlier to Becca, and if somebody is not responding, if they clearly don't want to wake up, shake the dust off your sandals and move on to someone who does want to wake up, and just keep sowing seeds rapidly, because our biosphere is disintegrating. It's disintegrating by the day. So again,
I woke up my neighbor. He saw a plane turn on and off. They turn on and off over us all the time.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know. On December the 8th, I don't know how not another person saw what happened. I went outside and thought that was completely crazy. There were 13 planes.
You don't need to.
I have footage.
There's a lot of footage around. You just need to share it with people. We have lots and lots of films. Just share it with people. Share credible data with people. That's important, as opposed to just verbally trying to transmit this message. So anyway, just keep doing what you're doing. And as far as how we can force disclosure, it's going to take a mass public uprising. And at that point, our paradigm is close to overturning, period. The power structure will become, again, extremely dangerous as it's backed further and further into a corner as people wake up. So we face quite a ride, all of us. But simply a journey that must be taken. We have to keep marching in that direction no matter what. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep sowing seeds. And thank you for waking up and having the courage to face this issue.
Thank you. And I admire you and Greg for all you do. I appreciate everything you do. because of you guys, I now know what's happening over us. And now I'm waking people up. I'm making time-lapse videos every morning. I'm posting them on the chemtrail page. I do a whole bunch of research. I'm learning what sulfur does to humans. I know they like to do sulfur experiments out of hot air balloons around us and all kinds of things. I just wish people could look up and see what I saw that day. 13 planes all spraying directly over us. And I also have one more question. Do you believe that once you start talking and becoming an activist, do you believe you become a target and they find you and maybe spray over your house and stuff?
Well, look, there's too many people right now for helicopters to fly over everybody's house, and anybody who lives in fear of that, you're missing the point because.
Well, it's not a helicopter. I had a plane just turn on right over my house, and that was just why I thought.
I wouldn't worry about that again. Whatever is or isn't happening, I certainly couldn't say. But the bottom line is the ship's going down. We're all on it. We're all needed on deck to fight this battle. Period. So I wouldn't look back. Wouldn't concern myself with things like that. Bottom line is just keep focusing on the fight. Period. And that kind of effort you're putting out matters. And anyone at all in this fight could be the last grain of sand that tilts the scale. All of us are needed. All of us are important. All of us are spokes in this wheel, period. It takes all of us. So thanks for everything you're doing. Keep it up. Share with others, and we'll try to keep the data flowing from this end.
Thank you. Can I ask
you.
one last question about the report, the scientific report?
Make it quick. I want to get as many calls as we can, so if you can make it really...
We had a methane cloud over New Mexico, and they said it was from fracking.
Well, but again, when it's fracking is releasing a lot, but right now to define a particular source is hard because we have so much spewing out, and they're all sources are contributing, so it's hard to define a particular source. Bottom line is the atmosphere is being saturated right now, so that's a huge factor. But it's back to climate engineering again. If we could expose that, it would expose the degree to which the climate's been damaged. It would pull the curtain back on a lot of other issues. It would cause the power structures paradigm to crumble. We have to expose this issue. So keep up your efforts, and thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, take care.
Thank you, Phoenix, for all you're doing. I would also add, she mentioned about the plumes turning on and off. I've seen that in Philadelphia. They started when I first came here in early 2014. They were doing full-size plumes across the sky. It looked like a war zone. Then suddenly they changed their tactics, started flying at higher altitudes, made short, non-persistent trails. This all happened overnight after day of war zone. And what they're also doing now is when they do the few days a month, when they do have the lower trails that they leave, they are turning them on and off. So initially you can see their trail, but after about 10 or 20 minutes, they start to form what might look like sort of more natural looking clouds. So I think this might be a tactic to hide it from the public.
Well, I think you're right. It's just an effort to be more covert as it becomes more in your face. A lot of people are reporting exactly that. So we're bound to see the experiment change a lot. It's in a state of flux. But the bottom line is more than enough data to prove it's going on for anyone who wants to wake up, share that data. That's what all of us need to do. So thanks for everything you're doing again. Absolutely. Thank you for calling, Phoenix. Caller with your number that ends in 40. Who do we have?
Yeah, guys, it's Steve Chamberlain from Nikiski, Alaska.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hello, Steve.
Very good, very good.
How's the temps up there? I heard a little short of snow for the sled race, huh?
Yeah, they had to change the route, and they're still running on dirt up there. So, but it's been colder, and of course less spraying because it's colder, so they don't need to spray as much, I guess.
Of course, they do sometimes anyway because they're after the records. I mean, at the places in the East Coast, when we had a week plus back, we had temperatures that were 35 degrees colder in the lower 48 than they were 150 miles from the North Pole. So, I mean, it's even though the temps are low, often they will try to drop them further as the chemical nucleation can. No matter what the starting point is, it can drop it further. So you can still have spray.
There's still something up there in the blue sky. You can still see ribbons of white streaks and things. So the atmosphere is definitely saturated, even when we have this high pressure and cold air. There's still stuff up there. So
yeah, they never let up. They never let up anymore. I mean, it's just an all-out go for broke. How's things going with the word spreading in Nikiski?
Every pizza box that leaves Charlie's Pizza has information on it. My sign out by the highway still is up every day. I've made a commitment that I'll never stop putting information on my pizza boxes until the spraying stops, and I'm going to do
That's got to be making, I mean, at this point, that's got to be making quite a dent up there. I mean, when people, at a certain point, when they see enough of the message
I'm
over
sure
and over.
It's still, it's a little bit disheartening. You know, it's tough to accept that I've saturated my community with this information from signs, pizza boxes, just talking about it, getting on my local radio station on a regular basis, and it's still not really showing the fruit. You know,
but don't underestimate the seeds that you have planted, though, because that seed is absolutely there. For everybody who's seen that message, it's there. And as conditions continue to unravel, and they are unraveling quickly, at a certain point, the lights are going to go on with a lot of people because they simply can't ignore it any longer. It's impacting their lives too horrifically. So never underestimate the seeds that you've sown. They're still there.
One more time, I want people to know that if you know of anybody who owns a small business, a pizza shop, or a small restaurant, a small store, get some flyers to them, or print some flyers with some good, credible information, and have them put it in every bag that leaves the store or on every box that you send out, or in your invoices. If you do a lot of invoicing, stick it in your invoices. It's a cheap way to do it, and it really does. I'm sure it gets the word out and it works. So.
Well, it does. And actually, some of the the small business card size informational cards that we'll have a better version of that posted up on GeoWatch soon that people can download and print. If you get the right print shop, you can make those for a penny a piece or less. That's really easy to pass on. Nobody's alarmed about that. Everybody's willing to take a card that size, and it's just the best mechanism.
I've been watching for those. I'm waiting for that to come out. I can't wait. I'm going to print those and use those.
I'll try to get that up quick because they are really, really helpful, and people are not adverse to taking those. No matter what their mindset is, just about anybody will take a card that size and take a look. So I'll get that up as quick as we can.
That the ones that get picked up the most in my restaurant, I put them all over the restaurant, the flyers with little strips of paper with the website on them. In the bathrooms, especially the men's bathroom, every day a couple of them disappear. So
that's that kind of creativeness, though, that it
when
matters.
When you're all alone in the bathroom and you read the flyer and there's there, you grab it, but you won't do it in front of your buddies that you work with.
Anyway, that's a good point. And your creativeness is planting seeds for sure. And in the coming weeks and months, Steve, I think again the events that are going to unfold on the ground are going to wake a lot of people up. They simply won't have a choice.
I believe so too. Something's coming, and it's really going. People are going to wake up. So
we're grateful for everything you're doing.
Guy McPherson, I really think we need to, practice what we preach here. When we run across people that straight up deny that they're spraying, you turn your back on them and you move on to someone who might accept it. And instead of spending a lot of time going after Guy McPherson, we should turn our backs on him, completely ignore what he says, don't even mention his name, and move on to other people. This guy's obviously bought and paid for, or he's threatened to death. He's threatened with death or something. We need to turn our back on him and move on. Let's not.
Certainly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time there, but I think because Guy is affecting people in a way that is not constructive, helpful, or even just, that when you put out what he's putting out, claiming that you're doing it because you simply want to be completely honest, but you're not being completely honest, that's not okay. And I think before I move on, I'm gonna finish a report on this event, and I'm certainly not going to spend any more time on it. I will move on.
Sure. Yeah. Well, anyway, let's just do that.
Just issue a report and then move on.
I'm good for what he is,
yeah,
and
that's all.
We'll move on to waking people up.
Oh, we will. Believe me, the focus will stay on what's unfolding around us. So we try to stay ahead of the curve as to events that are happening, and so we have a good flow of data. Yeah, absolutely, Steve. I agree. That'll always stay the focus.
Okay, guys, get some other callers in. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Have a great day.
You too.
Steve, it's great to hear what you're doing. I really appreciate the impact you're having. I'd like to give everybody a little suggestion about what I do sometimes is when I'm talking to people and they think that this isn't really a big issue or they haven't heard about it on the news, so they think it's not significant. I say, do you know that in Australia there's a protest in 40 cities every month about this issue? There's a protest twice a month in San Francisco, in Michigan, in Ohio, in Texas, in different places around the United States, people are standing in street corners holding up signs about this because people are waking up. And this provides two things. Number one, it provides social pressure so that people who don't see this on the news start realizing that the news isn't the only source of information, but something big is going on here. And the other thing is it helps people realize that just because they don't see it on the news doesn't mean they're informed. The news isn't going to be shouldn't be their sole source of information. So this is a tactic that might help people to reach out to people and let them know that there are a lot of people involved. In fact, let them know that our Facebook group has almost 30,000 people in it right now. And when they hear this kind of thing, people start to wake up and they start to pay attention a little bit. Dane, there's a couple questions from the chat room, plus we have a couple callers waiting in the queue. One quick question from the chat room. Could the military be trying to control our magnetic pole flip? Would that be a good reason for them to keep it secret?
Well, again, when we imply with the military is keeping something secret as if there's anything benevolent in that. The military doesn't do anything benevolent anymore. I mean, in the bigger picture, it's simply being used as a tool for the power structure. So sometimes I get messages from people that are hoping that perhaps what the spraying is really somehow benevolent, that it's necessary, and this simply is not the case. The data does not support that kind of conclusion. So whatever the military is trying to hide, ultimately their motive, those at the head of the military, I'm not saying everybody in the military, because we have a lot of good men and women that are there for the right reasons, even though they're being used for pawns in this scenario. But those at the top, Russ, I have yet to see them behave in any circumstance in a manner that indicates there's any benevolence in them. So there's a lot we can't know, and the poll situation is one of them. There's still a lot of data missing, but the bottom line is we have a very direct cause and effect happening around us every single day with the toxic metal and chemical dispersions that are going on. So I would say I would not assume or see anything benevolent in anything the power structure is doing. No.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Another question from the chat room. I'm curious about Cal Jam coming up. I know Dane is a speaker there. Can he talk about that a bit?
I hope that event is everything it appears to be shaping up to be. There's every reason to believe it will be because of such a massive attendance in past years. This year is supposed to be even bigger. I had a long conversation with the organizer of the event some days ago, and he feels climate engineering is the most important event being discussed, or the most important topic being discussed at the event. And certainly I feel that way, or I wouldn't be focused on this fight. So I think we'll potentially make a big impact there to wake up a lot of the medical community, the chiropractic community, to this issue and the fact that this must be our priority. It must be our priority. If we're to have anything left to salvage, we have to deal with this issue first. So I think it will be a big event, a very important event, and one that will gain a lot of momentum for our fight. But that's all of us working together, again, to make this happen. It's everybody everywhere. Becca, Phoenix, everybody working together, Steve Chamberlain in Alaska. It's everyone pulling together that makes our fight what it is, and it will bring us to critical mass. So every one of us matters in this battle.
Absolutely. Caller with your number that ends in 96. We just lost you. You can call back in if you like. Was just about to call on you. We do have Kim joining us via Skype. How you doing, Kim?
Hey, good afternoon, you guys.
Hey, Kim, how are you?
Not too bad. Got a good conversation going today, huh?
Yeah, well, things up your way. You're under still the big engineered cool down, yes?
Oh my gosh, yeah. We had 42 degrees yesterday, between 42 and 45, and they're forecasting a 2-day snowstorm, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches at the coast, anywhere from 9 to 11 inches up north, and it's 45 degrees out. So I'm just totally disgusted with this.
Well, yeah, again, that's where a lot of people in the anti-climate engineering movement need to plug this into their equation, that there's nothing natural about these massive cool-down events or snow at 45 degrees. Nothing natural about any of this. So just need to look at the bigger picture. And what they're pushing hard over you guys right now, Kim, but I think it's going to be harder and harder for them to maintain that little illusion over there in the East Coast as an indication of the larger picture. We have a massive cyclone spinning in the lower hemisphere right now.
Oh, yeah.
Just slaughtered Vanuatu, 170-mile-an-hour sustained winds. I mean, there's a lot's going to happen as they become increasingly unable to keep up with the damage they've done and trying to suppress cyclonic rotations as they clearly have in the Atlantic Basin. They've suppressed cyclonic rotations radically. Does anybody wonder why no hurricanes have spun in the Gulf of Mexico since the oil spill? Does anybody consider that? They don't want the Gulf of Mexico churned up, so the sea of oil sitting at the bottom that's being sprayed with Corexit, probably at the wellhead right now to keep that oil from surfacing. They don't want that exposed, so they can suppress cyclonic rotations. They are suppressing them, except when those rotations occur somewhere where they want them to do damage. So again, the weather warfare insanity is wreaking havoc all over the globe. You're in it, Kim. People in the southern hemisphere about to be battered by this cyclone are in it. It's just an ongoing, unfolding global cataclysm, but that's what we're all fighting. So let's keep up the fight.
There's one right now going from the Gulf Coast of Maine past Cape Cod and all the way down to Virginia. We're talking gale force winds and high surf advisories for the entire North New England, well, the entire New England coast. There's something completely hugging the entire coast, and we're all now in a winter weather watch. So that basically means is they're using the offshore winds to keep this thing landlocked to do the most damage, which is ridiculous because it's March 14th and we're going to get some snow.
They're wreaking havoc. But again, what's imperative right now is that everybody listening and everybody listening knows we try to get everybody we can to start those spot fires. Where, again, what Becca described, she did, and we're needed desperately right now. Everybody is needed, and a lot of the people I know are tired, fatigued. We're all feeling battle fatigue, but we have to keep our stride. Again, this is the rounding the last turn. The tape's in front. We're at a critical point. Everybody is needed to keep their stride and keep their focus, be effective, be credible, help us start spot fires. Everybody's needed.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I appreciate you guys doing this each week and giving everybody a chance to ask their questions because these questions need to be answered. But we also need to motivate everybody to try to do that little teeny bit that they can and just try to wake people up. And don't be afraid. We're here to back you up.
Well,
they're not alone.
What feels like a little teeny bit for someone somewhere just working on one person. Again, that could be the last grain of sand that tilts the scale. Every person that's woken up in this battle matters. So let's all keep marching at the best pace we can. But thanks for the update from Maine, Kim.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate so much the work you're doing. Kim is an administrator in our Facebook group, which has almost 30,000 people. Be sure to tell people who you're trying to convince about this that there's almost 30,000 people in a single group, and there's now probably well over a few hundred groups on this subject on Facebook alone. Caller with your number that ends in 96. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, this is Christina Schindler calling from Northern California. I just got back from New Orleans, and I just wanted to say that thank Dane for calling in the December show with Bud Rogers and Edge of the Herd, and we have continued since then on his monthly show, GeoEngineering, and we will continue again tomorrow, and that's can be found at kmud.org, 1:30 Pacific time tomorrow.
Thank you for your ongoing efforts. Again, it's that kind of consistent effort that when people hear the message and the data on this issue enough times, it sinks in. So that kind of consistency is hugely, hugely helpful. So thanks for your constant efforts in that arena. And again, it's all of us pulling together that matters.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thanks for what you're doing as well. Again, if people can take note from what you're doing in that area, we have people that are working on cable shows right now that are trying to get presentations put up on various public access cable, and the events on the ground, I think, as I mentioned earlier a number of times, I think are going to become impossible to ignore soon because it's the swings are getting much more radical, the damage is getting much more horrific, and at a certain point, and I think we're near that point, people will be forced to wake up because we're looking at crop crashes, we're looking at fisheries crashes. I mean, there's issues regarding food supply and resources that can't be ignored much longer. So keep sowing those seeds.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
good luck
bye.
with what you're doing. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Oh.
We have a question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful work that you're doing.
All right. Okay. You likewise, and All right. Have a good thanks and bye. Oh, it's also a call-in show. Just to put that being on as well. And all right.
All right, thanks.
I lost a little bit of that last. I got a little bit of audio twang there, Russ, but I couldn't hear quite the last bit of that, but I hear you now.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for the work that you're doing. It's just wonderful. We really appreciate it. We have a few minutes left. I wanted to forward a question from Dan on the chat room. He said, Dane, it is not that people don't want to know, it is that they can't believe such a terrifying issue because it would ruin their retirement plans. It is a really hard pill to swallow. It has taken me a while to really understand this simple science. Love from BC, Canada. I apologize. That's not Dan's question. That was a statement from earlier on the chat. Here's Dan's question. Last couple months here in upstate New York, they have hammered us as usual. I can always tell when they nucleate. I ended up having nasal passages get so inflamed, and I can relate to this, that the headaches are terrible. Again, I can relate to that. I can't move my head or neck. Can you ask Dane if he can repeat his nasal spray that reduces swelling?
What we've used, and this came from a alternative healthcare practitioner that's quite recognized. If you get a 2-ounce nasal sprayer and use the neti pot mixes, which you can buy in any drugstore, for example, Walgreens or Rite Aid, and you put a half a pack of the neti salt mix into the 2-ounce nasal sprayer, and you can put a drop of tea tree oil, a drop of eucalyptus oil, and a drop of grapefruit seed extract, and mix that, shake that up very well, and use that constantly. You can use it three times a day, and that's been very effective at trying to keep any fungal elements from starting and keep some of the inflammation down. That's been a very effective mix for those I know who have used it. My family uses it. So again, it's very inexpensive. Tea tree oil, eucalyptus oil, grapefruit seed extract, a drop of each, and a 2-ounce nasal sprayer with a half a pack of neti pot mix. Make sure you have sanitary water, and that's been extremely helpful. So it's just, we're faced with being exposed to this element constantly. We know with the chronic sinus respiratory infections, 90 to 95% of this is fungally related. This is the latest stats from the frontline researchers. So when doctors are giving out antibiotics, that's making that situation worse, not better. So fungal issues right now, the species extinction rate may now be pushing 300 a day from 200. It's accelerating. It's what we would expect. 70 to 80% of that is fungally related. So again, it's imperative to keep your body more alkaline. Apple cider vinegar is good mixed into your water. Cut the sugars. Sugar is absolutely poison for your body. And try to keep your body toward the alkaline side and keep your nasal passages shot with that type of mix. If you have any issues going on with the upper respiratory system, it can be hugely helpful.
Absolutely.
Let me one more thing with Dan in the retirement, Russ.
Yeah.
People who are clinging to that reality, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're heading for a completely different reality. The sooner we accept that and try to make the most of it, the more effective we will be. So I hope that people let go of what was and start to move on with the battle. I think about when I was a kid, I saw how they caught monkeys. They put a clear jar, chained it to a tree, put a fruit in it. When the monkey puts his hand in there and grabs the fruit, he won't let go, and he's caught. He won't let go no matter what. And that's what this amounts to when people are clinging on to retirement accounts and so forth. It's not going to matter. Put that resource to use for the common good now while you can. Put a billboard up in your area. Do something. But the bottom line is, don't hang on to a reality that's no longer going to be. Adapt to what is and make the most of it.
Yeah, and that may be a very good point to help wake people up and tell them straight on. And if you have to get emotional about it, it's good to be logical and have your facts. But sometimes you can't really express how important this is unless you show your own emotion about it. And sometimes that gets through to people. But let them know that what Dane just said, there is no future. Your retirement account is a null point. And maybe people will perk up and listen.
Put it to use while you can for the common good.
All right, Dane, we're down to our last 30 seconds. Any closing comments?
Everybody needs to keep up the fight. Again, we're in a critical time. Help to sound the alarm. My gratitude to everyone listening. Hope you'll continue to start spot fires wherever you're at.
This is Russ Tanner on behalf of GeoEngineering Watch Radio. We are here every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 noon Pacific on UCY.TV. Join us next week. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
This is Ozzy Skateboard, and you're listening to YouthLive.tv.